the 10 things that I have done to become and to remain a successful federal government contractor. The first thing that I've done that is super important is really learning as much as possible about the space. When I entered, I had no idea what it meant to be a federal government contractor. I didn't know what an RFP was or a sources sought notice. I had no idea. So I spent time and resources to learn the lingo, how things operate. I became familiar with the different documents. I even paid to attend courses to learn more and more and more. So I would come across not only as an expert in what I was selling, but also knowledgeable of the federal government space. The next thing that I've really practiced was really getting to know more about being an entrepreneur. I had always been entrepreneurial. I had tons of side gigs. I taught online as a 1099. I worked for different consulting firms, kind of behind the scenes, analyzing data. For another one, it was kind of a one and done. I went in, provided the services at this hotel where they had this interview set up where they were being paid to interview people for different education jobs, but I never had experience with what is needed to actually run a 6, 7, 8-figure business. So really honing in on your financial skills, your HR skills, your leadership skills, your managerial skills, your people skills are vital. There are tons of different ways to go about doing this. I would attend courses. I would get different resources online, listen to podcasts. I ended up joining a women's CEO group as I made some more money because that cost several $1,000s a year at that time to be a member of. But it's key to really grow because every single year, more and more businesses close down. Very few businesses go on past 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year mark, be it that they close down, only a fraction actually sell. I believe it's sometimes around 40% of business owners don't even turn a profit. So it's very important that you understand the business basics of the different areas. And those are just the basic areas. I didn't even go into business development and sales because that brings us to the next one. You always got to be selling as a government contractor. It is not an area where, oh, I work on the thing, I'm a trainer, I'm Dr. Parks, and that's what I do. Yeah, no, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm constantly working on the pipeline. Clients that I have, clients I would love to have in 5 years, clients that I would love to have in a month, opportunities coming up in a year, coming up in 2 years. It's having this entire pipeline filled so that you always have clients. You're always in this mode of selling, selling, selling. And I've said this to some of you who have reached out to me, and thank you so much. And don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button. You have reached out and said things like, oh, I didn't really realize that you sell. I thought you just responded to bids. It's still selling. That's a piece of it. Responding to bids definitely is a piece, but then there's a sales element of convincing a government point of contact who want to work with you. Because not every single federal government opportunity is available for you to review. They're not. They're never going to be. So how is the Navy going to know you're the perfect match for them? You have these cybersecurity skills that they need if they haven't even put the opportunity out there and they don't plan on doing so. It's through sales, which includes reaching out to various people. There's this amazing strategy that I teach in my course. So I've been awarded well over $50 million in federal contracts, and I have those who have mentored who have also been awarded contracts. So we move on to the next habit, and that is you also want to Network, 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 network. Because in the federal government space, there's opportunities galore for you to prime, meaning you are the main person, the contract is in your name, or for you to subcontract, meaning that someone else, some other entity has that contract, but perhaps they're funneling work down to you and you're a subcontractor. And while there are these lists, because they'll reach out and say, oh, well, can I just go and contact someone on the subcontractor list? Yeah, you can. David, who I interview and you can see on my channel, he reached out to me through the subcontract list. You never know. You could definitely meet someone, but at the same time, more than likely, people may not want to reach out to you because it's weird. And often a company is added to that list because they won an award, not because they asked to be added to that list. So by networking, be it virtual events, in-person events, groups on LinkedIn, groups on Facebook, even on TikTok and Instagram, that's how you're able to really get to know people. And what's important on the networking piece is what you will do for them. It's vital. It's vital. When you look at reciprocity, someone does something for you, you feel this innate thing. It's a psychological thing, like I have to do something in return. I'm a very generous person, super generous person. So often I'll pay for someone's dinner. So for instance, I'm also an alcoholic. I have 9 years of sobriety, and I was at a dinner with different people who are alcoholics, and we were dining, and I knew that they only had a few years of sobriety. So I thought, hey, I'm going to just kind of say, pay it forward and pay the bill. I pay the entire bill for the group. And everyone was really nice and really grateful and said, hey, the next time we have a big group outing, we'll take care of your meal. Okay, that's perfectly fine, right? That's normal. So I know you're already like, where are you going with this? One person in particular, she could not handle that. She started blowing me up on WhatsApp, text, like, we have to go to dinner. I owe you dinner. I got to treat you to dinner. Like, she couldn't handle the fact that someone had paid for her dinner, like she had to repay it. And the same thing happens with networking. When you provide this value, the person who receives it, they're going to act like her. Not every single person, but you're going to find those who act like her. And what's going to happen is they're going to want to partner with you, or maybe form a joint venture with you, or maybe they're going to introduce you to someone or inform you about some organization. So it's a huge habit to get into, and that is reaching out and networking, because you never know where it's going to take you. Next is, you got to get into the habit of having mentors. You got to have mentors. I say mentors because it's very important to have a mentor to help you with your gaps. So for instance, if maybe one of your gaps is around communication, perhaps you look into a mentor to help you with that. If your gap is around, hey, how do I speed up the process to win profitable government contracts from the most knowledgeable person in the space, then this is a channel for you, right? And it's great to have a mentor who's in the federal government space, who's been there, done that, and you can see the receipts on GovTribe or GovWin or other places. It's very important to have these different people in your life because you want to be able to take note of what they've done. It doesn't mean you have to do a one-for-one repeat, but chances are they're going to do this for you. You want to come in a little closer. They're going to speed up the process, speed up your learning process. That's what a mentor, a coach, that's what we do. It happened with my mentor, who I formed 2 joint ventures with that I still am the majority owner of today. She sped up my learning curve. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have known exactly who to have gone to for health insurance or how to handle different situations that came up with federal agencies. I had no idea, but she did. So I went from this with learning, because it took me over 10 years to get to where I am, to like, it was crazy, y'all. It is crazy. So it's very important to have mentors. The other habit that is vital is to always, just learn. There was this person who was in the federal government space around the same time I was, and she was very open about I don't need to learn anything else, and she was in the military. She was just very braggadocious about I'm done learning, I don't need to learn. Learning is not for me, but for everybody else. And she really was not about learning. She was all about means to an end. I want to be involved in XYZ to get some money. Everything was about what can I get? What can I get? What can I get? And y'all know that is exhausting. It's exhausting. And so she was unteachable, and she doesn't have a company anymore. I don't know how long she was in business, 2-3 years, something like that. It was a long time ago. It had nothing to do with COVID. Her business was done way before COVID. Point is, you gotta learn. We have everything. We have this amazing channel, subscribe, hit that notification button. We have Audible. There's tons of free places you can go for free audiobooks. If you don't wanna spend a lot of resources, the public library has so many different resources. It's a great place to go. You have podcasts, you have all these different groups out there. So when it comes to closing these skill gaps, please keep doing so. Keep learning, keep reading, read different business books out there. Read books by Gary Vee, Alex Hormozzi. Read these different books of different entrepreneurs, because although they're not government contractors, what they're talking about still applies. It's super important. For instance, Gary Vee talks a lot about it's jab, 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 right hook. In that when you're boxing, you're not just right hooking. Okay, first off, I promise you I can box, and my right hook does not, that ain't even my right hand. It don't look like that, y'all, I promise y'all. So the point is, when you're boxing, you're not constantly going in for these right hooks or body shots and things like that. You're also jabbing, you're doing these kind of jabs. So the thing is, you're not just going in, hey, Air Force, I need a contract, I'm an 8A, I'm a woman owned, give me work. Oh my God, no, ooh, that's freaking scary. No, you wanna give some things to them. You wanna help them out. You want to show them what you can do. You want it to be about them. You write them a white paper, right? And those are the jabs, right? So reading books by Gary Vee, it's a great place to then take those nuggets and apply it to this amazing space of government contracting. And the next thing is, you definitely want to make sure you stay up on federal government news. It is so important. There's different resources out there. Pretty much every single agency has at least a Twitter or LinkedIn and a Facebook. Some agencies even hold, get this, y'all, get this, Facebook Lives. Yeah. So it's really important, if you're pursuing a certain agency or a certain department, that you are very aware of what's going on with them so you can plan accordingly. So for instance, my flagship company does a ton of work with the USDA. And a couple of years ago, the USDA kind of restructured. They then changed this really important policy around telework. So this was right before COVID. But because of that change in policy, many people left the agency. Sound familiar? So of course, because of COVID, that policy has changed, but at that point in time, that started to have an impact on us, not only with the work that we were doing, but also had an impact on increasing our work and be able to offer added value because we could provide staffing. When your client has turnover, that's the opportunity for you to jump in. Or if you see that an agency passed a new law and it's an area that you're interested in, perhaps it's on some new cybersecurity regulation that provides a place for you to go. Very important to stay up on the latest and greatest news. Next habit is you need to, at least every quarter, make sure your business model is solid. So hear me out. In the space of federal government contracting, every now and again, something where maybe you're getting a higher return on investment, maybe that no longer has happened, or the reverse has happened. Maybe you received a low return on investment, meaning perhaps you provide provided some admin positions and you were only paid $20 to $26 an hour for those positions, but maybe something changed, a new agency or even the current client you have says, oh my gosh, you know what, actually we need to relabel those labor categories, and it leads to maybe, a 2x of what you were charging. Bottom line is you want to make sure you're profitable, your rates are on point, that what you're selling still makes sense. Because there was this time I spoke with this company, they were looking to partner with us, and they said, we've had this agency as a client for about 15 years. And, every year the price just goes lower and lower and lower and lower. And I thought, I don't want that. I don't want like the big screen TV approach to business where like it started out like $50,000 or something ridiculous where like no one I knew had a flat screen TV. And nowadays you can probably get a flat screen TV at Aldi, y'all. I know you can definitely get one at like Dollar Tree, Dollar Store. Point is, they're super inexpensive. When it comes to this business model and federal government contracting, I'm not looking for that to be the lowest and that number to continually go down. That's not what I'm looking for. So therefore, you want to keep pulsing it in case you need to make any kind of adjustments, meaning perhaps you sell something else, you pursue other agencies. So for instance, my mentor had shared that certain Department of Defense agencies didn't pay as much under training and development. And that's one of many reasons she started to pivot into record management. And so I thought, okay, makes sense. So we're going to need to supplement and pivot into other areas and just be mindful that when we bid or explore training and development opportunities, if it is with potentially a DoD agency, let's really check to see, is this a services contract where chances are it's going to be lowest cost technically acceptable? And if that's the case, probably not going to bid on it, right? So it was great intel. And then as a result, my flagship company really started to pivot. And so went from training and development to IT to staffing, religious staffing, and all these different areas. So it's really important. The next habit is you need to check Sam.Gov every day. And when I say you, I don't mean like you, the person watching this must do it. If it's you right now, potentially, but someone needs to check Sam every single day because 80% of your time should be spent on sales, especially within your first 5 years, 80% of your time. And so in addition to networking and outreach and things of that nature, you also need to check SAM. If you're into selling products, you want to fold in Unison. If neither of these are familiar with you, that's fine because I have lots of videos on my channel where I talk about both of these. But you definitely want to check because each and every day, hundreds, if not thousands of new opportunities are added. And because agencies are located across the globe, these opportunities are added 24 hours a day. So you want to do that. The other habit is you want to make sure you're tracking what you're pursuing and what you've decided to do, which we call the go, no go approach. So you go on SAM, you find an opportunity, let's say it's for staffing IT professionals, for Army Corps of Engineers, you capture the key information, you can just do this in an Excel sheet or whatever works for you. And then you want to see and keep track of, do you bid on it? If you bid, did you win? So you can start to notice trends so you can see what's really your ROI. Because there was a point in time before I ended up where I am now, where I had a spreadsheet with like 50 different lines. I don't think I won anything on there. I was just all over the place. I didn't have a strategy. I didn't know then what I know now. And so therefore, energy goes where your focus is. And my focus was all over. So that energy was, I don't know, under this table, this desk, it was gone, you guys. It was gone. So you want to make sure that you at least are able to start tracking, because especially for those who are starting out, you may not have any experience, as well as for those of you, maybe you have some experience where potentially you subcontracted for someone, or maybe you worked for a government subcontractor or a government contractor as an employee. Now you're able to see, okay, my background is in IT, great. So I know I'm able to deliver on the IT efforts, or I was able to be a successful employee or full-time equivalent. So I'm going to start looking at IT efforts, specifically those that align with what I was doing for these companies. So you're going to keep track and review and review and review. Super, super duper important. The next thing is you got to have humility. I like to say this a lot as far as a habit. You have to have humility because we're talking about predominantly taxpayer dollars, these massive missions, and nobody wants to deal with a pain in the butt. Nobody wants to deal with like an ego or prima donna or all the little words that are used out there to describe someone that no one wants to deal with. You get a pass if you offer something that pretty much nobody else offers. Or maybe you really know someone in the federal government. Otherwise, they're not gonna wanna work with you. My very first multi-million-dollar 8A set aside. The agency had an 8A. The 8A was in the middle of finishing their very first year of the 5-year contract. That agency was not happy. They weren't happy at all. They started to look for a replacement and they interviewed at least 4 and they went with my flagship company, KPC, and we replaced them. I even met some people from that company at some subsequent outreach events. So when it comes to this space, nothing is guaranteed. So you want to always make their lives easier. It's very important, which is the next habit. You always focus on them. Not saying it's always easy. That's why humility is key. So for instance, there's an agency, they changed their invoicing. Come to find out, the people who need to process our invoices, they're unable to see the attachments. So they're getting these invoices like, okay, come on, I'm not gonna approve this, 6-figure invoice. There's nothing here, which would make sense, right? Who would do that? But the thing is, nobody was aware of this. The agency didn't know that the invoices were over here, and we didn't know that this was even going on. Some of you watching, you may think like, oh my God, I can't believe it. See, this is why I don't want to work with the federal government. All this red tape, this is ridiculous. The government always pays, you get interest if they pay you late. It's a recession-proof area. So that's why the humility and patience are very key, because my team, they're taking care of it. It's a non-issue. We provided a solution. We're partnering with them to take care of it so that our accounts receivable are not held up because of something like this. Things happen all the time. That's why having patience, having humility are super important in this space. The next habit is you definitely want to practice taking care of your team or taking care of others. When it comes to the federal government space, you're making your money from the who, it's the people. One of the biggest money makers in the federal government space is staffing. May not always have the label of staffing, but it's you providing people to do the thing. So for instance, a woman who I mentor, she'll find a painter. They're the people doing the thing, right? There's another woman who I mentor. She's big into training and education. So she provides additional trainers, coaches, people to do the thing. So you want to make sure you take really good care of them. You're adhering to all the rules. You're paying them. You display that you care, that you appreciate. You show appreciation, even if they are not employees. Because at the end of the day, speaking for self, what I have, being able to have this place here in Michigan and to spend time in different states is because of my amazing team. It's not me. I'm a small part of it. It's my amazing team. And I always make sure that they're well taken care of in the way that you can best do it, which connects to the next habit, because I already know what you're thinking. How am I supposed to offer them all this money? How am I supposed to offer them all these benefits? I'm not a big company. I'm a small company. I can't pay them all these things. I share this because these are real statements people have made in open environments and definitely behind closed doors. And that moves to the next habit is you need to get rid of that negative mindset, y'all. That negative mindset. Get rid of that negative mindset. Research over and over and over and over again. Because I have a PhD in industrial organizational psychology. Research in this space has shown time and time and time again, job satisfaction is not always tied to how much you make. Sometimes it's benefits, it's title, it's the office, the size of the office, it's feeling appreciated, it's feeling that they can bring their entire self to work. These are the things that are really important to us as humans. It's just people. We spend the vast majority of our time at work. So saying or thinking, well, I can't do what Lockheed Martin does, good luck, because you're going to have a turnover problem. You will. Sad about the money. At my companies, we're not always the highest paying. I don't have the platinum benefit plan whatsoever. But what I offer them is amazing. The insurance plan's amazing. The 401's amazing. Our policies and procedures are amazing. But above and beyond, we're always focused on making their lives easier, showing appreciation. And these things are so key to make sure that you don't have turnover as time goes on. Because even for those of you who are watching where you're like, well, right now it's just me, think big. Is it always going to be you? Nope. Jeff Bezos, I want to be able to sell everything on the internet. That's what I want to be able to do. He didn't say, well, I'll sell some books, just a couple books, sell some books, maybe put a new roof up, maybe, take a vacation with the family to Disney. That's it, I just want to sell some books and compete against, Barnes & Noble. Yeah, that's it. Y'all are going to have teams. You're freaking GovCon winners. You're following me. Come on now. Come on. This is really important. It's super, super important. And that mindset will prevent you from winning work, from partnering, for seeing all that's possible. So you got to get in that habit of being positive, being around positive people. That's another habit. You can't be around the people. Why are you doing this? Why are you always working? Why aren't you giving me attention? Why are you even doing this? Does America care about you? Why you care about them so much? Then live that life. It's not going to get you anywhere. Well, not at least where you want to be. You got to dream. You got to dream big. You got to have goals and put your goals first. We have one life. So another habit is you got to dream big. When I first started out, people said, oh, Kizzy, you can just be a sole proprietor and you can use your home address. No. Instead, I incorporated as an S Corp. I hired a lawyer because I don't even know if LegalZoom existed, but I didn't know about no LegalZoom. So I hired a lawyer and he incorporated it. And I also paid for a virtual address. The virtual address was less than $100 a year. The lawyer was someone who I met at a SBA small business event, and therefore his rates were discounted because I had attended the event. He was local. I was able to meet with him in person. I got the hard copy of everything. I don't have it here in Michigan. It was well worth it because I knew, I was like, one day I'm going to have a ton of employees. I could potentially have hundreds of employees. And that's the case right now. My team knows what our goal is. They know I would love to have a couple hundred employees. There's no reason we can't if the right work comes along that's profitable, right? Because we're not desperate. We don't need to have to, we don't do any of that. The point is, I wanted a foundation set up where people knew, oh, this isn't just one person, or they'd look up my address and would say, oh, it's your house. I mean, I get it. You got to do what you got to do, but you also have to think bigger, which brings us to another habit. And that is you got to pay. You got to pay to play, y'all. Here's what I mean by that. I'm not talking about you win a contract and you lose money on it, or you try to do something illegal and give someone some kickback. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is this. Once someone said, I do not and cannot know everything. I need to have smarter people around me or to pay for the smarter people. So if you need a certification, pay someone who has experience and a track record, not someone who claims that they can do it. And even P-Tax and SBAs, listen, I love them and I went to them. I spent over 10 years learning to get to where I am. They're not business owners. They don't have a business in SAM. They don't have a set aside. So how do they know everything that's needed? With one exception, service disabled veteran owned. That's my only exception. Those who work in that space pro bono, usually they know what they're talking about. They know what they're dealing with. That's the exception. For the others, pay a well-known company. You want to get in this position of paying, and here's why. Because it's going to become very challenging for you to say to an agency, I want to charge you $60 an hour or $400 an hour, or I want to charge you $300,000 for this thing or this service, if you're unwilling to pay $1,000 for someone to help you with your economically disadvantaged women-owned small business set-aside, or you're unwilling to pay $5,000 for someone to help you with your 8A certification. Now, I'm not suggesting you should put this above eating or paying your electric, heat, air, gas bill. I'm not saying those things. What I'm getting at is you have to think like those who are super successful in this space. And when I say that, I'm not just speaking of, I'm thinking, let's be real, Lockheed Martin, IBM, Deloitte, Amazon, and others. They're part of the top 20 who have the most amount of government awards. Where do they spend money? Marketing, PR, lobbying, the list goes on and on and on. So why is it okay that Lockheed Martin is spending money, but you don't want to spend money? And you may say, well, money is tight, things are going on. Is that really the case though? I don't know, only you know. But is that really the case? Because what happens is, just like with mentoring and with having a coach, you're speeding things up. The companies who really are good when it comes to GSA and different set-asides, they know the game. They know what the package should look like. They know how to respond to questions, because chances are they being SBA, they're going to kick it back. They're going to kick things back. And what I found is some have said to me, well, I don't really know what to do, or it's not worth it. See, I knew it. That's just an excuse to quit. None of these habits cover, I got an excuse, I'm done. No, that's not how this works. It's not how it works at all. So you want to speed things up to remain and be successful in this space, being profitable, being in business, adding to the fuel of our economy, and that is employment. Small businesses employ the majority of people in this amazing country. To be part of that, you gotta at least ponder these habits. These are habits that I practice, y'all. I promise you. It's not just something I read on a book or a blog and I made a video on it. These are real things that I do. So my amazing GovCon winners, check out govconwinners.com, get on the wait list. You all know you want to speed up the process to find, bid, and win profitable government contracts from the greatest expert in this space, because I have real contracts. I have over 50 million of them, to be exact. So I adore each and every one of you. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dr. Kizzy Parks. Yes, my hair is, goodness, y'all, I can't just, wow. It's just really glowing today. Some days it's not glowing and it's just glowing. I feel like I need to go out. Don't forget, y'all, everything is possible. Take care.